بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون وقال تعالى شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون صدق الله العظيم وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من صام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه وأيضا قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ومن قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. Respected brothers and elders, when the month of Ramadan comes, it is a great fortune for each and every single one of us that Allah gives us the ability to witness it. We might have heard in our respective masajid from our respective imams and scholars 2 months before the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which was Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa ballighna ila Ramadan. That Allah bless us in Rajab and Sha'ban and make us reach the month of Ramadan. Now this dua was made in hopes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him a chance to witness this month. And the fact that a person witnesses this month is a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because many people a few months ago were alive looking forward to the month and something happened to them, be it a natural disaster, calamity, be it whatever in terms of their health, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took their lives away and they don't have the opportunity to witness the month of Ramadan. Many people, they had so many different plans that when Ramadan comes, I will change my life. This Ramadan will be a life-changing experience for me. I will come to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will fast, so on and so forth, whatever other intentions people had. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decreed that they were not to witness the month, then there is no more opportunity for that person. So the fact that we're sitting here just a few days away, we may dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us make it to the month of Ramadan, but not only witness it, but also benefit out of the month. Right? One is a person who witnesses the month and he just goes through the motions. And what are the motions? When a person is asked, what is Ramadan? Sometimes we go to work, co-workers ask us, what is Ramadan? And our standard answer is what? The answer we all know. I stay hungry from this time to this time. And I don't eat and I don't drink. And that's the standard answer. And while that is true, but that is only a part of Ramadan. There is much more to Ramadan than just staying hungry. Like how the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Kam min sa'imin, that how many people will come and they will fast in the month of Ramadan, and the only thing that they will get out of this month is the fact that they stayed hungry and they stayed thirsty. Didn't get anything else. Ramadan was to bring the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you. Ramadan was to bring the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you. And eventually in the last 10 nights, وَآخِرُهَا عِدْكُمْ مِنَ النَّارِ, Ramadan was to bring the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to save you from the fire of Jahannam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to enter you into paradise. But that will only come when a person makes that Ramadan a life-changing experience for him. Where each and every single day that person is getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's reading Quran, he's making the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Along with fasting, he is staying away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many people, when December 30th or 31st comes, they make this resolution that this next year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'll lose weight, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to start eating better, I'll start exercising, whatever career goals that the person has. And everybody has this resolution and this goal that they have. It's a different thing that people try and follow up on it after 1 or 2 weeks. But the fact that people have these goals. When it comes to the month of Ramadan, we also need to set out goals for ourselves. If the last Ramadan I had not finished one Quran, how can I make it such where every day I'm reading one juz so that when the last night comes, I finish the Quran and I recite the Quran? We might not be doing it the entire year, but how this Ramadan can bring upon me in my life where I can recite the Quran? If I am reciting the Quran, how can I work on the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on lessening that and completely getting rid of that in my life? And how I can increase in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes a person, a father, or somebody of a position, he sets the foundation for those people around him. Sometimes even the boss, a company that you're running, for your employees, you set the foundation for them so that they can thrive. You equip them with everything, be it laptops, be it whatever they need, right? In order for them to succeed in the job that they're going to do. And if a person doesn't do that, then after he's given 2 or 3 chances, that person is let go. That I gave you everything. I gave you whatever you needed to succeed, but even then you couldn't do the job. Now you might go look somewhere else. And just like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when this month of Ramadan comes for His believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets the playing field for us. And what does He do? He locks up all of the shayateen. He makes it easy for a person that the shaitan is not there to whisper to that person to take him away from the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and into the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is set for that person. Not only that, when he does acts of ibadat, Allah increases the reward of that person. Nawafil, the rewards are increased. Sunan, the rewards are increased. And even for fara'id, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases the reward manifold. So everything is set for that person. All the person has to go is he has to show up and he has to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants him to do. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself mentions what is the purpose of fasting and what is the purpose of Ramadan. Many nations came before us. Some of them had fasting for a few days, some for 10 days, some had a different type of fast. But one entire month was made exclusive for the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And why was it? So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can cleanse us from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He can cleanse us from all of the sins that we have been committing for the other 11 months that were there. So that when this person comes out, he comes out كَيَوْمٍ وَلَدَتْهُ أُمُّهُ, like the day his mother gave birth to him, he had no sins on him. That person comes out with the forgiveness and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that person comes out freeing himself from the fire of Jahannam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what I want from this month from you is the fact that you gain the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person gets that in this month, then he has understood the point. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights. That out of fasting, you are going to bring the quality of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for how long? أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says for a limited number of days. Like we were mentioning, many nations came before. They had fasting for a few days here and there. But one exclusive month was made for us. It comes in the narration, لَوْ أَرَادَ اللَّهُ أَن يُعَذِّبَ أُمَّةَ مُحَمَّدٍ مَا أَعْطَاهُمْ رَمَضَانَ. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had intended to punish the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, He would not have given them the gift of Ramadan. And even that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made so much ease. When Ramadan was made fard in the beginning, it was from a moment when a person was going to go to sleep till the sunset of the next day. So what had happened was, people came. They would come from a long day of work. And they would come, one person came and he was waiting for his food to get ready. His family members are preparing the food. And all of a sudden he falls asleep. Now the ruling was, the moment you fall asleep, the fast starts. So the person the next day, he wasn't able to function. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed the ruling and He made it easier for us. That it's not from when you sleep, but it is from the time before Fajr Salah. And even that we spoke about a few days ago. Sometimes we see these listings that are there in our masajid. And different masajid will have different timetables that are mentioned. And why are these timetables that are there mentioned? The ulama go into a lengthy discussion, and a lot of people ask this question also. It is a matter of the start of Fajr Salah. So we were mentioning also last week in our Maghrib talk that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Fajr Salah was gauged and measured by the sun, by the sky. So whatever they would see in the sky, it would be the accurate time of Fajr Salah. And even till today, if you want to get the 100% accurate time, a person is told to go out in an open land in the desert, and he can gauge the time of starting the fast or breaking the fast. But nowadays, why do we have different timetables that are there? So the ulama mentioned that there are 2 times of Fajr Salah that comes in. Right? One is based on the 18 degrees, and one is based on the 15 degrees. So one of the degrees, the Fajr Salah will start much earlier, about 15 to 20 minutes. And if you base it on the other, the Fajr Salah starts a little bit later. So now when do we begin our fast? Right, that's the $1 million question. When do I begin my fast? If there are 2 Fajr times that we start, because we live in a city, we can't really look at the sky and gauge the sunrise, sunset based off of just looking at it, because you have buildings that are blocking you. And that's why we had this timetable also. In the time of Rasulullah, there wasn't a timetable that would come. They would just look at the sky and they would start their fast or break their fast. So the ulama mentioned, in order for you to protect your fast and also protect your Fajr Salah, you will take the more extreme view when it comes to starting your fast. Meaning, the Fajr Salah of 15 to 20 minutes before, based off of the timetable that we have, you will start your fast. But you will not be able to pray Fajr Salah until the next timing, which is the later time. Which is why we have that buffer of 15 to 20 minutes, so that you're protected on both sides. Then the hadith of Rasulullah comes up to a person, right? And many people read it, and then the question is posed. That the Prophet ﷺ said is very clear. When the Fajr time starts, you start your fast. Not before it, not after it. So why are we starting it before? And when it comes to the sunset time, why do we not break our fast? And why do we wait 3 to 5 minutes? And I was mentioning, we were a few years ago on one of the mountains here, Mount Tamalpais. We went for the moon sighting. So we were looking at the timetable that we have. If you search up on Google sunset time, wherever you're at, San Mateo, San Francisco, Foster City, wherever you may be, it'll give you one time. But if you're actually looking at the sun, it takes about 2 to 3 more minutes for the actual sun to set. So now if a person is breaking his fast 2 to 3 minutes before, then that person's fast, there is some deficiency in that person's fast, which is why we wait a few minutes. And there is nothing wrong in waiting a few minutes, because you want to protect yourself and your fast. We fasted the entire time. What is 5 to 10 minutes on both ends? It's not going to make much of a difference, right? And that brings us to another point, where the month of Ramadan is not the month of feasting. For many of us, a person goes into the month of Ramadan and you'll see that person on Eid, he's gained 5 to 10 pounds. And it defeats the entire purpose. You might have seen the brother at the first of Ramadan, you might have not seen him the entire month, and you see him at the end, and man, it's a different person. What happened to you? Didn't you fast? I did fast. But I ate so much in suhoor, and I ate so much during iftar, and that I have defeated the entire purpose. Fasting was to be a cleanse for you, not only spiritually, but also physically. But if we are not eating the right foods, if we're not doing the correct things, then you will find deficiencies on both ends. You will find deficiency in your spirituality. Many people come on the day of Eid, and they say, man, Ramadan isn't the same anymore. How is it going to be the same when our life stays the same? We haven't made any difference. We're continuing our life when it comes to the disobedience of Allah. I still go out, I still misuse my eyes, I still listen to the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm still doing whatever disobedience of Allah. The only difference was that I was fasting. When you will witness Eid, you will not have any difference. Why? Because you had not done what you were supposed to do. You have not attained the quality of taqwa and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings us in the next verse, where He says, شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed the Qur'an in the month of Ramadan. And this is where a person needs to exert all of his efforts. If he knows how to recite the Qur'an and he's doing that, how can he spend time in understanding the Qur'an? How can he, morning and evening, after every single salah, he can set out a goal for him. Again, each and every single person for themselves. One person might have a goal that I want to read 1 juz of the Qur'an. And mashallah, that's great. A person who's reading a juz, he has this goal that I'm going to read 10 ajza of the Qur'an. One will say, I want to finish an entire Qur'an. And the person that finishes the entire Qur'an, maybe every 10 days you want to finish. There's people still living today that we've met. Every single day they start their reading of the Qur'an from Fajr, and they'll finish it by Dhuhr or Asr time, every single day. And the entire month of Ramadan they finish 30 Qur'ans. So that's the level we want to get to. When a person reads the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the alims he was mentioning, that a person will come on the day of judgment. See, Quran, not only does it give us rewards, but is also وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Right? Many a time sicknesses are also cured from the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Depending on the sickness, with the dawa and the medicine that we have, we also need to supplement ourselves with the a'mal of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And what can be better than the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself mentioned, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. The Quran literally is a shifa for you. You are going to get cure on the basis of reciting the Quran. So one of the alim was mentioning under the ayah, he said that when a person goes onto the day of judgment and he stands in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will tell him that, oh my slave, you had this sickness that has started, but before you knew about it and before you could even go to the doctors, because of you reciting the Quran, I had cured you. You had cancer, you had this disease that was to come to you. But because of the recitation of Quran that you held on to, and every single day you were reciting it, I had cured you from the sickness. So much so where you didn't even feel any of that. Right? So not only does the Quran bring for a person the reward, but the Quran will bring for a person physical and health benefits for that person. Right? So this is what we need to build ourselves and an attachment with. The next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this is another thing which we need to focus on in this month. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. So after mentioning that fasting, the point of fasting is the taqwa and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After mentioning that the month of Ramadan is the month of Quran, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what do I want you to do? Take out time where you're asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you're making dua. And the best time to make dua is right before iftar. Even for the people that are cooking at home. First and foremost, like I said, it should be simple food. Whatever stuff we could put together. A person is hungry, you'll eat whatever. So, but that 10, 15, 20 minutes needs to be set aside for every single person. Not just the men. Because what will happen sometimes is the men will sit on the sufra and the women are cooking the food. All the way till the last second. Not even till the last second, all the way until even the fast is broken. Why? Because the food needs to be prepared and I need to fill my stomach. I gotta have good foods. Right? But we need to stop 10, 15 minutes before. So that not only we can ask from Allah, but also the women can ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The children can sit and they can ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We put our needs in front of everybody. But unfortunately today, we don't put our needs in front of the person, and that being who can fulfill our needs, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many people in this world, you ask the person once, the person might give you what you're asking for. You ask him twice, he might still give it. Third time, next time he sees you, he'll run away from you. If you text him, he'll say, oh man, I didn't see your text message. Right? And then you try to avoid that person, because man, every time I see him, he asks for something. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that being who, when a person doesn't ask, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like it. Then how can my slave not ask from me? We're slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that we put our needs in front of Him. Before we put our needs in front of anybody, a child, before putting the needs in front of the parents, needs to be taught that I need to put my needs in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Parents, before putting their needs in front of their bosses, or in front of the doctors, or whatever other people they have around them, before all of that, we need to put our needs in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What happens today is, when all avenues are shut, I went to my boss, he couldn't help me out. I went to a person I look up to in terms of respect, he couldn't help me out. I went to my parents, they couldn't help me out. When all avenues close, now it's time to, man, I need to go to the masjid now. I need to read 2 rakats. And I need to ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that being who will never even let you go, even in that moment. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if you make Him your last resort, He'll still be waiting for you. But we need to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala our first point of connection. And this is what we also need to learn in the month of Ramadan. That whatever we have been given is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even before the month commences, that, oh Allah, make it such that I reach Ramadan and I benefit out of the month of Ramadan. Right? Because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is going to give you the ability and the capability to change your life, to do a'mal, to come to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Urdu they say, Mera talab mein kisi ki talab ka sadqa hai, ye qadam uthane hi uthaya ja raha hai. that when I do something, when I get the desire to do something, be it good or whatever it is, come to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, help somebody out, that desire only comes to my heart only on the basis of the intention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I do that thing. When I take that step and I go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am not taking that step. Sometimes a person, when he comes 5 times to the masjid, he feels like, look what I'm doing something for Allah. Even that itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you the ability. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's dua was, Allahumma la takilni ila nafsi tarfata ayn. That, oh Allah, don't leave me to myself even for the blink of an eye. And why did he make that dua? He said for each and every single thing we are in need of the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that thing to happen, it will happen. And if He doesn't want that thing to happen, then the entire world can come to change the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will never ever be able to change the decree of Allah. It's all in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When a person obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah gives permission for a person's heart to beat, for that person to live his life the way he's living, for that person to continue his life normally. And when that person is disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's still in need of the permission of Allah. Each and every single heartbeat that we have, for the heart to beat once and twice, between that, it needs to ask permission from Allah. And each and every single moment we're taking a breath and our heart is beating, Allah is giving permission for that. And Allah gives it permission when you're making the ibadat of Allah, and He also gives it permission when a person is making the disobedience of Allah. So that a person can one day change his life. How many Ramadans have we gone through? Depending on your age. If you're 70, you've gone through 70 Ramadans. 60, you've gone through 60 Ramadans. 10, you've gone through 10 Ramadans. How much have I bettered myself from the last Ramadan to this Ramadan? From the previous Ramadan to this Ramadan? Or am I continuously in the disobedience of Allah? Is my life continually going and am I living however I want to live my life? Those chances are there, no doubt. But those chances will come to an end one day. How many people last month that went through the earthquake in different parts of Turkey and Syria? They had no idea. They went to sleep, they had no idea that they were not going to wake up. How many intentions does a person make? That this Ramadan will come, I'll change my life. I'll start memorizing the Quran. I'll start going to the masjid. That's just one example. How many people, even through natural disasters or natural calamities, a person has an intention that I'm going to do this, I'm going to set up my business, the future for my children like this. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees it that person's chances are gone. If a person does not change his life now, then tomorrow might be too late. That's why the moment is now. What are you going to do with this month that is coming? And this is what you'll see, mashallah, first week, many a masajid. You'll see, mashallah, the masajid are full. Then the week goes down. Right? Second and third week, you'll see, mashallah, people will go back to their lives. Maybe Taraweeh is a little bit too late. It's a little bit hard for me to stand. So 2 to 3 weeks, they'll take a break. And then the last 10 nights, oh man, now it's go time. Right? Ramadan's coming to an end. And then you see, mashallah, people coming back. Even then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't know on which amal Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive a person. But we want to do something where we exert ourselves completely. When the last 10 nights came, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, more than the previous 20 nights, he exerted himself, as if he never even knew his family members. His family members didn't even see him the last 10 nights. Where was he? Did he go hang out with Jibreel? Was he hanging out with other prophets? Did he take a vacation? He was in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, confined himself to the obedience of Allah. That now it's only me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's nobody else. And again, ibadat can take place in many different ways. A person can be reading salah, qiyamul layl takes place. A person can be making dhikr. Even a person making dua, asking for his needs, for his wealth, for his children, for his family members. Even that is considered obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards that person for asking. And so we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to reach this month. Not only reach this month, but benefit out of this month. We have Mufti Sahib from Fiji. He's going to say a few words. And we make dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts this month from us. We make dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for those going through any types of hardships. And the 3 things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to us, which is forgiveness, mercy, and freeing ourselves from the fire of Jahannam.